book to tell his life story. And a lot of the narration in it comes directly out of the book that he wrote, correct?
Yeah, so back in 2017, I met Laz at a country club in Medford, and he was sharing his life story at the club. And I was hired to film him that day. I really didn't know Laz at all, and I was really inspired. I mean, as you were inspired tonight by Laz's story, and at the time he was writing a book about his life, and so I approached him that day and I said, "Your life could be a movie." You know, it has the potential to really make an impact in that medium, and so what you saw tonight was essentially the book. I didn't. There was, as far as the screenplay, it just was really a direct translation from the book itself.
Okay. So the film was shot some in Southern Oregon. You also took a trip to El Salvador and to Mexico to film it. Tanner, were you involved in that trip?
Yes, I was part of the El Salvador and Tijuana trip.
So how does that conversation go coming from Nick saying, hey, do you want to fly to one of the most dangerous places in the world as far as crime, bring all your camera gear with you, and go like, was there any sort of hesitation in that, or were you eager to participate? Or
For me, I was eager to participate. I was a senior in high school at the time, so it was more of trying to convince my parents to let me go. But I was totally excited. I'd been down to Nicaragua previously on a mission trip, so I was really excited to go and be a part of this.
Terrific. As a reminder to our audience, we do have mics on both sides of the stage there, so if you have a question that you want to ask to Nick or to Tanner, please walk up, and there's an X on the floor that you can ask a question about. So when you met Laz and you said, hey, this might make a movie, at what point did it go from just a casual conversation to we're actually making a movie?
Yeah, so back in spring of 2017, it was just an idea. And I think at the time I wasn't like super serious about it, but I had a vision, and Laz was interested, but he wasn't ready for it. So it really wasn't until fall of 2018 when Laz emailed me and said, hey, let's talk about that movie idea. And he was ready, had finished his book, and so we connected. And in just a few weeks, really, we came up with a game plan, the trip to El Salvador. And so fall 2018, we planned the trip, and under a month, we made necessary gear purchases, booked the tickets, and then what you saw, about 65% of the film was shot in 10 days. So that El Salvador trip that you referred to was in California, Mexico as well. All of that was in the span of 10 days, including the transition and the flights and everything else. So it was really miraculous.
I am curious about getting gear into foreign countries, how difficult it is for all of the equipment, for your drone, for all your cameras. Yeah. How do you get all that stuff over the border and down into some of these obscure rural areas of El Salvador and into Mexico?
You want to tell them a little bit, Tanner?
Most of it, I think all of it, that was our carry-on item, or in our personal items. Some people we gave, like some of our lighting gear to keep track of. So the easiest and I guess felt safest to us was to just keep it on us at all times.
Yeah, it really was stressful. I'm like, especially like the nights before we took off. I mean, we were just allocating all the gear. I think one of the most like nervous moments for me was just like entering El Salvador, because it's like they want to know why you're there, what you're doing, and then your gear is going to go through the scanner. And miraculously, we're there at the scanner, and the agent just says, just walk by. You don't need to use the scanner. So the whole trip, it was just, there was no coincidences at all. Everything flowed, everything worked, and it really was, it was really all meant to be. Every piece of it, like even Tijuana flying the drone, I still look back and it's like, how did that happen?
We have David over here, I believe, has a question.
I have a few about the trip to El Salvador. I don't I haven't kept up with what's going on in El Salvador. Back then, it was federal government versus leftist insurgents. That was the danger. What is the danger there now? Is it drug cartels, desperate people? How did Laz get there and get back? At some point, did he become a U.S. citizen and get a passport?
Yeah, so first of all, El Salvador. So, yes, fortunately, El Salvador is in a much better place than it was a few decades ago. They now have a much better government that cares about its people. Their leader, their president is, I think he's actually one of the youngest presidents that they've ever had. And so when we were there, I mean, we have some experience in Latin America, and I see a lot of more infrastructure, much more security. Of course, it still gets a bad name because it has been a dangerous country. But really for me, no moment of the trip did I feel like my life was in danger. Actually, I think the most insecure moment was in Mexico, because whenever you're on a border in Latin America, it doesn't matter where you are, there's just a lot of moving parts. As far as Laz's personal story, he came to the U.S. as a teenager. He married a U.S. citizen, and that helped him eventually become a U.S. citizen himself. And then Laz, of course, since he legalized, he visits his family as much as he can. What I want to say is, in the film originally, there was a sequence about Laz returning home to El Salvador. He goes once or twice a year, and he gives back to that community as well, to his family, to his friends. And so, yeah, those are that's what Laz continues to do now, and El Salvador is in a much better place. It doesn't mean it's super safe. There are problems with drug cartels, like you refer to, but it's definitely not the El Salvador of the 80s.
From Mexico than it is El Salvador?
On the border, yes. I can't speak for all of Mexico, but...
Did you have to fly to Mexico then to El Salvador, or did you go straight from America to El Salvador?
So we went from Medford down to El Salvador. I mean, Medford, San Francisco, El Salvador, right?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
And then we went from El Salvador up to LA, and then LA, we drove down to Tijuana, Mexico. That just, logistically, it made more sense doing that. But yeah, I mean, in general, though, I felt like our team, and not all of them were Spanish speakers. Some of them had never even traveled outside the country before, yet we had a really great experience, and we always were safe, and yeah, it was a good time.
David, did you have a follow-up, or?
How long did you have to work on this film?
Okay, great question.
From the start of the idea to its completion.
Absolutely. So Laz and I, we met back in 2017, but really it was fall 2018 when we started those serious discussions. So December, first week of December 2018, 10-day trip. That was production. We came back here. I continued filming, doing those interviews that you saw in Southern Oregon, which meant, I would say, 3 months of doing interviews here and there. And then the video post-production, so the editing was May 2019? Yes, May 2019 to, I would say, Labor Day. Yeah, because we were submitting Sundance. So it was about, 3 or 4 months of editing, and then, we started the film festival circuit.
Thank you, David. I'm a little curious because Laz obviously personally invested. It's his personal story, and also he is an immigrant who traveled and came to the U.S. and then made good out of his life. But what was your personal investment in wanting to tell this story?
Another great question. Personal investment. I think the reason why Laz and I hit it off so well is, one, I spoke Spanish. I had majored in Spanish at the university, and I cared about the culture. I'd traveled all over Latin America, and I feel like this whole movie project is about building relationships. For me, when I was in El Salvador, I felt like I was home. I really didn't feel scared or insecure. It helps when you speak the language. And so I think Laz and I, from the beginning, it wasn't just that, oh, I can, I'm a filmmaker. It was, I also speak the language. I know the people. And so for me, since I graduated from Southern Oregon University, I told people I wanted to make a documentary in Latin America. Funny story. And that transpired. And so when I met Laz, I saw that opportunity. He had an amazing story. I had the tools to bring it to fruition. He was going to produce it. And so for me, I think that personal investment was, I saw a really great story that generally goes untold, or it's told from a different perspective. And I wanted to provide that perspective because Laz, as you might know, isn't the only one. There are many other great immigrant stories, and I wanted to make sure Laz's was told.
Tanner, what got you personally invested in wanting to do this project?
So I've worked with Nick over the past couple of years doing weddings and stuff. But for me, I'd done, like I said previously, a mission trip down to Nicaragua. It was a year or two before, and then actually my senior year of high school, we hosted a foreign exchange student from our sister school in Managua, Nicaragua, who's actually here in the audience with us today. So having been there, seeing what life is like in Central America for students there, and then now to get to tell this immigrant story of how successful he's been.
Nick, I know you've been in the middle of moving from the Ashland area to Klamath Falls. You left right in the midst of the most memorable event that's probably going to happen in Ashland history. Laz works in construction. Any idea how he's going to help out with rebuilding the communities that were just devastated by the fires?
Interesting you asked me that because just yesterday we were talking about a short film that I am finishing, Illegal 2. And Laz was mentioning he's just been super busy this week working with local politicians and local government, how he can contribute and help because he does. I mean, that's what he does. He does land development now in Ashland, in Medford. And so I know he's going to have an active role. And this is what he does best. He loves to take action, and I would not be surprised if he already has a lot of work ahead of him, and I know he wants to help his community.
The film for a little bit profiled some of the planned housing that he was building. Do you know if a lot of his properties ended up burning up yet, or is it too soon to judge?
For what I know, I don't think they lost any of those properties, but I know that the fire was very close because when it in those initial reports, the first thing I told my wife was like, that's really close to where Laz's properties are located. But after speaking with Laz, it appears that no properties were damaged nor lost.
Okay, good. What is it that you hope that people get out of seeing the film Illegal?
I think it really just goes back to that previous response of mine, which was relationships. And for me, my goal is that you are able to get into Laz's shoes for an hour and 13 minutes and understand where he came from, his culture, the war, coming to America, adapting. Unfortunately, most of us don't have that opportunity to go to El Salvador or go to Mexico, but you can come to a movie theater and you're able to relive his story. And so I hope that people walk away from this movie and they have a different perspective on immigration, the pulls and the pushes, and that you would look at these stories with names. Now you know Laz's story, and there are many other stories just like his.
Your film does humanize what has been a political hot topic for years now, and especially in the last couple of years. And it is refreshing in a way in that you put a face to it, because whenever we turn on the news or we hear the discussions or read the articles about it, it's always talking about numbers, or you just see a large crowd. You don't see an up-close individual, and you don't hear their story and their background. In the places that you've been able to show this film, I know 2020 has really limited the ability to show this film. What kind of conversations and dialogue has been sparked from this film as far as people talking about the issue, but not just about the numbers, but about, people?
It's really been a positive conversation. Unfortunately, like you say, Kurt, a lot of film festivals have, well, practically all of them have been virtual. But from those conversations, I think people are really interested and believing in this guest worker program, reforming it, improving it, because they now understand that we need that labor to meet the demands of these industries, such as agriculture. It's not the only one. But you see that in the movie, and that helps people understand how they're affected. That whether it's the food supply, having sufficient labor to pick pears and all the rest. So I would say yes, like that is the goal, is that people can see how they're a part of the bigger picture.
Tanner, are you two going to be working on projects again in the near future, or are you currently collaborating?
Yes, I've worked with Nick for the past couple of years. I just moved back over here in Klamath Falls as well to continue my schooling here at Oregon Tech. But we're actually doing an Indiegogo for our next movie, if Nick wants to go into that.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned just briefly, I am in the post-production phase for Legal 2, which is really just like a summary of the last part of the movie about the guest worker program and reforming it. But another project that Tanner and I are working on is going to be another documentary. It's called American Woman, and I'll be here afterwards to discuss, or you can, of course, find me on the web. But yeah, it's going to be a documentary about American women and their contributions and what does that mean. So we really like doing documentary work, as you can see. And we already, like Tanner said, we've already done a little bit of the production, but now we are crowdfunding because it takes a lot of money to make a movie.
The cinematography in this film, the drone work is really spectacular, and the shots in El Salvador kind of speak for themselves. Just the landscapes and the communities that you were able to shoot, not only are they well shot, but the colors are so vivid, and the landscape is just beautiful. Your team that came with you to shoot that, was that a surprise? I mean, was there a lot of planning in that, or do you just kind of turn the camera on and point in that direction? You end up with a whole bunch of great footage afterwards.
I think it was mostly pointing the camera, but there was a little bit of planning. I think one of my favorite moments that we had that was spur of the moment was when we did the Day of the Indians. It was just, Laz was like, oh, hey, there's a parade going on today. Let's get our stuff ready. And 15 minutes later, we're out on the streets filming this parade throughout the town.
Yeah, it was there was a lot of planning because I'm a very organized person, and I like to have each day cut out. But one of my lessons I learned as a first time director of a feature film is you just need to be flexible. You go with the flow. What's available to you is what you take advantage of. And like Tanner said, El Salvador is just a beautiful country, beautiful people, and they really just rolled out the red carpet for us. And I feel like we didn't have to do much except just be present, record what's in front of us, and they did the rest.
In the course of filmmaking, as a documentarian, largely you're pointing the camera at life experiences, what's going on, and just sort of observing. But did your perspectives on the immigration issue change in the course of making the film?
That's a fantastic question. I think from the beginning, Laz and I were both on the same page as far as telling his story. But I think the part that changed was him providing a solution to the bigger problem of illegal immigration. And I wasn't really aware of the guest worker program. It was, kind of like what you see in the news and politicians. It's either everything or nothing, and nothing really in between. And so I was really fascinated to learn about the guest worker program. For me, it was going out to the orchards in Phoenix and Talent, Oregon, and talking with the guest workers. I mean, I really felt like that was a quality education because I was listening, just gathering their life story and why were they there versus just watching the news. And again, it's a numbers game. So I feel like for me, yes, the perspective in part did change because I found that what Laz was proposing was a really solid idea.
Laz being a Rotary member and doing the amount of charity work that he does all throughout the communities, I know he's very driven to also want to try to spark a dialogue and have conversations about this and show the movie to then have conversations with people after they've seen it. Did Laz pass along any sort of messages, since he couldn't be here, of specific things that he wanted you to state, or things that he wanted to have expressed to our audience that's both here in person and online?
I think Laz would, he didn't give me a specific message to state, but I can kind of sum it up. And he would want all of you guys to continue with, or follow us, online, follow the discussion online. You can just look at Illegal the Project on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. The website is illegaltheproject.org. And he would encourage you to dialogue and conversate with your friends, your family, your community about immigration, and looking for a solid a solution, because oftentimes it's just a bunch of it's just a show, and Laz really wants a solution, a long-term solution versus like a short-term fix. So.
Tanner and Nick, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share about your film?
You go ahead.
Yeah. No. I mean, I was just gonna say thank you for having us here tonight. It is a blessing to be here, because we've done virtual since March, and the last time we had an in-person was at our premiere in New York City. So it really feels good to be here and be a part of this film festival.
Tanner, anything else you'd like to say?
It's awesome to see it in person. Last time I saw it in person was in New York, so it's always awesome to see it on the big screen. And it's just an awesome time to be a part of it. Thank you, Nick, for bringing me along, of course.
Well, we're going to give out some autograph posters, and I guess I didn't make the sign big enough at the front of the door saying leave a business card and we'll do a drawing. So instead, we have an autograph poster here to give away to anyone in the audience. And I also have an additional poster for you, sir.
Oh, thank you.
that we got printed. Any final questions from our audience? And we'd be happy to give away an autograph poster of Illegal the Movie to one person in the crowd. So. As you stated, Tanner, since you guys weren't able to be here earlier, we are actually the only film festival in the entire country right now that is in person. Every other film festival is either canceled, gone exclusively virtual, or doing a temporary drive-in. We obviously have very limited capacity in that respect. We have a 740-seat theater, and we can't fill even a fraction of that. But the fact that we can even do that is pretty remarkable right now. And we really appreciate you submitting the film and coming out to participate in it. We will continue tomorrow. Day 3 is our final day of the Klamath Independent Film Festival. It is our shorts day. We start at 11 a.m. with K-12 films. We'll show Northern shorts, Southern shorts, and we will end our festival with an awards ceremony at 7:15 p.m. I should mention our awards. We are a little bit different in that, one, we are the only film festival in the entire state that exclusively takes films made in Oregon or by Oregon filmmakers. We are the Made in Oregon Film Fest. And we wanted to expand on that this year, not just do the same old thing that everyone else does with film festivals, because anyone who takes their film to multiple festivals, if you win, that's great, and you get a cash prize, but you end up with the same little plaque or a little glass tchotchke that ends up in a closet and you don't really think about it much. So we recruited the Southern Cascade Woodcrafters Guild, a collective of fantastic local artists, to take a look at our winning films, and I'm not going to say which ones won, but we found out based on our judges in early August what our winning films were, and we were able to have the Woodcrafters hand-carve custom trophies for all 5 of our categories, where all of our trophies are based on a character or a theme of the film. So each award is actually its own individual art piece to celebrate each of our winning films. So we will announce those tomorrow at 7:15 here in the theater. We'll have an awards ceremony after conclusion of our last Q&A in our last film. So please come back for that. And thank you for sticking with us. I know this was a long day. Tomorrow is also going to be a long day. we have some fantastic films. So thank you very much for coming and for participating in the 8th Annual Klamath Independent Film Festival. So thank you. And thank you, Nick and Tanner.